Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network and presented in partnership with TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on December 29th, 2022, and is current through the Star Trek Prodigy episode Supernova Part 2, so beware of spoilers. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
WeeklyTrek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in a new golden age of Star Trek. There are multiple television shows in production, possibly more on the way, and enough merchandise to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me, and I'll help you sort the real facts from a lot of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. And wow, what another year in Star Trek it has been. This is our year in review episode for 2022, in which we'll be looking back over the biggest moments in Star Trek over the last 12 months. I hope everyone is having a fabulous holiday season, however you have chosen to celebrate, but I can't look back on the year that was alone, and my guest this week is returning guest and co-host of the Trek Ranks podcast. It's Jim Morehouse. Jim, happy holidays, happy new year, and welcome back to WeeklyTrek.
Thanks for having me back, Alex. I'm excited to be here and talk about an amazing year in Star Trek. Incredible.
Well, we are going to skip what we're feeling good about Star Trek this week and talk about what we're feeling good about in Star Trek this year by diving straight into the year's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Okay, so to recap the year, we are each going to reveal 5 moments from the last year of Star Trek that we want to highlight. They can be both good and bad moments. I certainly have a couple of mixed ones on my list, and which could touch on anything from the shows to live events to merchandise. I've got the host of the Trek Ranks podcast on, so we're doing a sort of a semi-adapted Trek Ranks style look back at the year that was. We're also going to do this live Trek Ranks style where if you have one and I have the same one, we'll just talk about them both together and then we'll keep going. We'll talk through all 5 and then we will give one thing we're looking forward to from the year ahead. That's not Star Trek Picard Season 3 or Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, because otherwise those would be the 2 answers. All right, Jim, so let's hear your first pick. What was one of your 5 moments in Star Trek this year that you want to highlight?
Okay, so amazing year. I mean, there's 51 episodes of Star Trek.
Yes.
That we haven't seen that since the 90s, which is just incredible. So I'm going to say, so I like the show, right? I'm about episodes. So my list would probably be, if I was doing 20, it would be 20 D would be the episodes. I'd just be talking about the show because I love the show. And everything else I love, whether it's merchandise or conventions or friendships or everything else would be down the list. But
secondary, because you love the show.
This is WeeklyTrek. But this is WeeklyTrek. So I'm going to hit on a couple of deep cuts, and then I'm going to end with stuff on the show. So we'll see where you go. All right. So I'm going to start right away with a couple of non-specific show related, although I'll tie it to the show somehow, I'm sure. So having said all that, confusingly, my number one, and I did do 5 words in a hashtag.
Very nice.
Is 5 words: Christopher's Cerritos cartoon crossover coming. Hashtag what is happening? And for me, that's a tease.
Yes.
It's the Lower Decks panel at Mission Chicago. So this panel was amazing with Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome and Noel Wells, but it was most notable because Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome were in character as Boimler and Mariner. And this was right around the time when they're announcing that. I can't remember if they announced it at this panel or not. I just remember the energy in this panel was just ridiculous. Yes. It was before season 3. We were right there in the front row. Could not have been more fun. And they were basically announcing, I think they must have announced it at the panel, that the crossover with Strange New Worlds was coming. Oh no, they announced it at the Strange New Worlds panel at the same event because they came out and or maybe
that was at San Diego Comic-Con.
That was at Comic-Con.
That was at San Diego Comic-Con. This was a couple months before that.
So this is before that. Okay, right. So it's all merging together because for me,
and that's
the key is that anticipation of kind of, there had been rumors that it might be happening, but people didn't know kind of how it would happen. But now we know that that's coming. And so basically it's that panel, which was just the energy from those 2 actors is unbelievable. That show, they showed a preview, the room was buzzing. It was just a fantastic panel and I loved it. So that's my pick, that Lower Decks panel at Mission Chicago. Super memorable.
I love that. That was probably I would say easily one of my top 3 convention moments of now 11 years of going to Star Trek conventions. I mean, you'll never beat Patrick Stewart saying he's coming back to Star Trek at STLV 2018.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, I think this one slots into the number 2 position just because it was so fun. It was so high energy. The actors wearing the costumes was hilarious and ridiculous. Mike McMahon was on top form. We enjoyed seeing an exclusive clip from the episode. Just the whole thing, like, really sort of set up Star Trek Mission Chicago for being a really fun and successful event. And I will say I did not include any of the live event stuff on my list.
Okay, good. I wanted to get I jumped into this one because I thought you might. So
yeah, no, since I talked about it a lot on the episode that's coming out, well, it will be out by the time people listen to this with Ron Roble. We're not doing live events today, but that was really fun. That was really cool. It was a great convention and it was such a great panel. And it would be terrific if we were able to have a situation where we could have something similar in the future.
I'm sure there will be times. At some point it will happen at some point. But yeah, that was just an absolute blast. So even though I got my timelines messed up, so
that's okay.
I guess we didn't know at that time. That's interesting.
Yeah. But it was still, but it was a ton of fun. Yes,
yeah.
It was buzzing. And it's just this sort of sense of like everybody who's in modern Star Trek is excited to be in modern Star Trek, right? And like really wants to be there and is having a great time. Nobody exemplifies that more than Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid. And interestingly, they're 2 opposite actors in that regard, right? Where like Tawny Newsome, longtime Star Trek fan from like a child, like this was something she really wanted to do, now has the opportunity to do it, realizing the kind of lifelong dream that like, well, you may have had the opportunity to realize at a certain point in your life, but I never have, of like being on the show, versus Jack Quaid, who like had never watched the show before he got cast in Lower Decks, you know, was not a longtime Star Trek fan, did not have that level of like connection and association with the franchise. Now loves it and is having a great time. So yeah, I love that. I love that pick.
Yep. It was way too much fun.
All right, I'm going to flip my list. I started with the big stuff and ended with some of the smaller stuff, but I'm gonna rearrange on the fly. So I'm gonna start off with so I'll move my show ones to the back. So I'm gonna start off with a non-show one, which is to talk about what like the high highs and the low lows of merchandise this year. That it's like it has been a year of 2 completely different stories in the Star Trek merchandising world. On the one hand, you have the highs, right? So the highs have been things like we have Playmates action figures again for the first time since 1999, with the exception of the short interlude for Star Trek 2009 action figures. Seems to have been well received by the fan community. The action figures, right? Like I think we talked before, some of the sculpts are, you know, maybe not so great, but like generally I think people are excited. There are $15 figures, Star Trek figures that you can buy, and we're expecting a second wave to be announced next year to supplement the first wave that was released this year. Another amazing high, if that's the $15 figure, well, let's go to the $200 figures. Right, XO6, the 1/6 Star Trek figure producer, has made a ton of really high quality 1/6 action figures this year. Right, like capping off the year, probably 2 of the best that they've done: Admiral Kirk from the motion picture and Spock from the motion picture, which sold out within, they were a very limited run. They sold out within about an hour. Like you cannot beat that Leonard Nimoy sculpt on the motion picture Spock. It's absolutely incredible. Trek Unlimited's pushing out a bunch of really cool like Star Trek homeware products. There's been a lot of great stuff in the merchandising realm this year, but that is sort of punctuated by this other story with one of like really low lows. This is the year that Eagle Moss went out of business, right? Nothing to do with Paramount. Everything to do with Eagle Moss having a bad business model.
Yes, correct.
And they're gone, right? We don't know what's going to happen with getting a Protostar model, a Stargazer model, a Ships from Strange New Worlds, all of this stuff that like people would, I think, really like and really want to see, you know, and they were for 10 years the big Star Trek ships and one of, I would say, sort of the biggest licensee in terms of the kind of product they were producing, and now they're gone. And other things too, just like little things like Science Division, who made the app-enabled Tribble. They announced this year they're in the last couple of weeks that they're done at the end of this year. They're not going to do any more in that regard. And like Star Trek books, we've only had 2 novels this year. That's the lowest number of novels we've had, with the exception of 2018, since like 1979, I think. So, you know, there's this really interesting story of like, there's lots of things that are going really well, and then there are some things that are maybe not going so well. And hopefully in 2023, the things that are not going so well start moving in a positive direction, and the things that are going well continue to go well. And we can get to the end of the year and say that it was an unabashed success for merchandise that year.
How about Anivos? Are we going to talk about that? Oh, okay. I'm going to.
That was a 2021 story.
Okay, great. They were dead in the water years ago.
Yes.
They owe me a lot of money.
They owe me a lot of money.
So let's talk about the negative really quick. I'm gonna try and spin a little positive on them quickly, and then I'll talk about the good stuff. I think so. Science Division, that was awesome, right? It's hard to. I mean, it's sad for them, but I also think that was a real small startup by a couple of individuals. They did a great job. It was an awesome product. I think in my mind, being pragmatic, how long is that going to last? That's tough. I don't know. Right. I would never know how to start a business, and that seems hard. But kudos to them for what they accomplished. I think about that in a positive light. Like, wow, look what they did. That's really cool. Eagle Moss, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, at some point, that was going to blow up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to collect all this stuff, but I'm getting to the point where it's like, I have 250 of these freaking ships. What the hell am I going to do? Where am I putting these? Yeah. What am I doing? But I want them all, because the thought of me holding a Xindi reptilian ship in my hands is like impossible to comprehend. Like that they're going that deep,
and impossible to say no to.
And by the way, that was in like one of the first 30,
right.
It was like, I remember when that came out, I was like, really? They're making a Xindi reptilian ship? This is crazy.
Yep.
300 ships later, it's like, holy crap, they're still going. And I won't get too into it, but their business model, it frustrates the living hell out of me. I mean, just so annoying. They grew and they expanded in ways that to try to make themselves more valuable for a buyer. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just speculating. And then,
oh no, Ben Robinson said that's what they did.
Oh, there you go. And then you have 2 or 3 bad months in a row, and you're done.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
You're not selling, and it's just like, if you had just kept going at the small level, and maybe the investors weren't into it. That's not what they wanted to do, but you could have kept going. Just small. Just keep it. Don't expand this mindset that every company has to grow. You have to grow. We have to grow every year. No, you don't. You could just status quo. Anyway, get off my soapbox there. So I'm just glad I have them. And it sounds like at some level that there's going to be a return. So that feels like that was just coming.
At the very least, we were forced to go cold turkey.
Right. Exactly what happened. Although I was getting frustrated at the end because I had like those 7 ships that they skipped over and I hadn't got, and somehow I got them all right before they folded.
Isn't there one that you're still looking for?
No, I got them all.
Okay.
But I'm missing a couple of the magazines before.
Got it.
Because they stopped printing them, and then they don't start me on that. And then there is one, right?
Yes. You were looking for it.
They sent me the wrong ship. That's right. Because there's one time I can't even remember what it is.
You are looking for,
it's like a freighter.
You are looking for the garbage ship that is emitting radiation from I think it's a final mission, where they have to like tow it into the sun, and Picard and Crusher crash landed on the planet.
That's right.
And
that's right.
And it's like a race against time to go and look for Picard because he's disappeared. So that's the one you're missing.
That's the one. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's called like the.
No, that's right. Because I have the magazine. Because they sent me that magazine. But I don't have the ship because they sent me the wrong ship. Okay. Anyway, I have nothing positive to spin on the books. That's sorry. Right. That's kind of rough. So, but I'm glad you moved your list around because we'll go to my number 4.
Yes.
Pick, my 5 words and a hashtag, and because I know I'm on WeeklyTrek, I was going to do something related to merchandise. So 5 words and a hashtag, like living on the 1701D hashtag, but in the cargo bay. And my I'm just highlighting Star Trek Unlimited and these products. I mean, I've been waiting for this stuff my whole life, from the storage containers, which are fantastic and now help we keep those 250 ships organized in a way that I couldn't before. To the sealed glass kitchen containers, which I don't actually have yet. Those are stuck in a container somewhere. To, I mean, even the Vasquez Rocks garden statue, which I'm waiting on as well. And the plates. Oh my God, the Enterprise plates they just put out.
From Picard season 3.
So damn good. The
TOS ones.
The TOS ones that look like the saucer. Oh my God,
yes.
I love them so much. They're so good. So Star Trek Unlimited, man. If even half the stuff on their website that's in development comes out and is produced, kudos to them, because I love that stuff. And I'm gonna throw a shout out to X06 too. I haven't bought any of those. Thankfully, I did not go down that rabbit hole like someone else on this podcast. Who swore he was going to stop after like 5, but couldn't. Every time they put one out, I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. All right, that'll be cool for people in like 6 months. And then like 8 days later, you're tweeting a picture of it. I'm like, how the hell do they produce these so fast? I'm so used to these products being stuck in development hell that it's impressive how fast they turn that stuff around.
Yeah, I mean, to have gone like, I think by the end of last year there were 3, and I think by the end of this year they've like added, I think, nearly 10 more.
That's crazy.
Right? I mean, now you've got Data and Picard from First Contact. These are just the ones they've shipped, not the ones they put up for pre-order. Data and Picard from First Contact, Janeway, the Doctor, and Tuvok from Voyager, Sisko from Deep Space Nine, Burnham and Saru from Discovery, Mirror Spock and Mirror Sulu, Motion Picture Kirk and Spock, and Q. And those are the ones they've shipped. And then the ones that you can do pre-orders for: Archer and Shran from Enterprise, Chakotay from Voyager, Quark from Deep Space Nine, 7 of 9 from Voyager, Locutus from The Next Generation. That's about, I think I counted 16 there. I just named.
Crazy. That's a lot.
So it's
those
a lot.
Are high ticket items, but they're really good quality product.
With like a bunch more on the way, including next year, they're going to get started with the regular TNG crew, the Wrath of Khan era kind of original crew. There's a Krug from Star Trek 3 that was going to get put up before the end of this year. It's been pushed to next year. More Deep Space Nine. They want to finish out the Voyager crew by the end of next year. There's a teased a T'Pol. They've teased the Cage Pike and the Menagerie Pike and a Telosian. They teased a Gorn the other day that they were going to do a 1/6 TOS Gorn. So yeah, I mean, there's and the captain's chairs too, right? They've done, so they will deliver early next year an Enterprise E captain's chair. They're gonna do a Wrath of Khan captain's chair. Hopefully more to kind of supplement out those as well. So yeah, like just incredible.
Do they have any captain's chairs out yet?
So when the guys who did X06 worked at QMX, they did the TOS captain's chair, and they've said that because they made so many of those at QMX, they're not going to make them at X06 because you can find them on eBay for relatively close to retail prices. So that one's out, but the first one that they have made will be the Enterprise E captain's chair, and that one they said will come early next year.
All right, and we should give a shout out to Factory Entertainment too, those guys, because so they did the hand phaser, the phaser 1 from which is from TNG, which you've never had before. The Hypo Spray, which is really good. Both of those are awesome displays that I'm looking at right now. And then I love those mini props they did. I hope those sold and they keep doing those. Those little kind of basically like Eagle Moss product for props. Really cool idea with the little phasers and like that phaser rifle is nice from TNG. Anyway, great stuff.
Okay, well, my number 4 pick is I'm going with a sad one for this one, which is it did feel important to acknowledge the important members of the Star Trek acting community that we have lost this year. Nichelle Nichols, obviously the sort of biggest kind of shining light in the Star Trek sky. That went out this year. Kirstie Alley, who passed away a few weeks ago. Christopher Plummer, who passed away earlier this year. A number of other kind of guest stars from all of the shows that we've also lost this year, which, this has kind of been a story for the last couple of years, unfortunately, as a product of the franchise being 57 years old in 2023, is going to continue being a feature of it going forward, where we'll continue to lose people who are important to the franchise and more people from more recent Star Treks as well. And so, just wanted to acknowledge it was another difficult year in regards to losing people. Next year will probably be a difficult year, the year after and the year after, and we celebrate and love the contributions that each of those individuals has made to Star Trek, and they might no longer be with us, but their work continues to live on in a really important way, and in a way that continues to help kind of entertain people and educate people and guide people. And so they're never really gone from us as long as we remember them. So that's mine. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
I love that. That's great. And I'll say my number one pick was going to be the loss of Nichelle Nichols. So I like that you combine that. So I'll move that up here to my number 3 pick. And I'll say that, and I'm going to combine it a little bit with the celebration of the character.
Yes, please do. Yes.
Because Strange New Worlds is something that I wanted to highlight, obviously, as an incredible part of this year. Just the most unbelievable 10 episodes launch of a series that I can remember. I absolutely love it. And the fact that Uhura was like the linchpin of that season just blew me away.
Yeah.
So unexpected that she was so critical to the narrative that kind of went through the whole year up until what's my favorite, well, a lot of favorite moments, but one of my favorite moments was at the end of, at the end of Quality of Mercy, when Pike is walking around the bridge connecting with everyone super quietly and acknowledging, and we get to Uhura and they exchange this amazing look on her face, this beautiful smile, but this kind of understanding, and I just love that. I love that moment. I love her in this season, and Nichelle Nichols is she's been part of it from the very, very beginning. And I've been a huge fan for my whole life, basically, because I'm old, and losing her was tough. That was I had my 5 words and a hashtag was Uhura as we've never seen, hashtag amidst the loss of a legend. I just adore her, and we have to acknowledge that, because that's a big part of Star Trek. The things she did on the screen and off the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it is funny. I mean, it's such it is a coincidence, a really poignant coincidence, that in the year that we lose Nichelle Nichols, the character of Uhura is ascendant and had such a really strong role in Strange New Worlds season 1, was a really integral character to the season, and had a really solid arc over the course of the season, which is really important to informing Nichelle Nichols' portrayal of the character in the original series and beyond. So yeah, it's like, obviously they didn't know that like this was going to be the year that we would lose Nichelle, but you couldn't have asked for a better celebration of her contributions to Star Trek. And as you say, both her on-screen work and her off-screen work than Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 1 as a whole, and Uhura's role within it. Yeah,
a couple months before she passes, the Children of the Comet is literally, no matter how you kind of break down, the first real Uhura episode.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy to me and it's hard to kind of comprehend when you think about it. Like, it's the first time she's really the key character in an episode, and so now they're celebrating this character in a way that always should have been the case. It always was stuck in my craw that she was the only TOS character that never came back and had any kind of post Star Trek 6 appearance in Trek. It's really frustrating, really myopic, and a huge missed opportunity for 90s era Trek, and even stuff beyond that. So, but yeah, celebration of her, right? Because that's how it has to be. She's literally gonna live forever.
Yep, she absolutely will. All right, let me give you my number 3 pick, which also has a little bit of an Uhura tie-in, which is that animated Star Trek has reigned supreme this year.
Okay.
Reigned supreme. First of all, just in the sheer quantity of animated episodes that we've gotten this year, with a few of the episodes of the first half of season 1, the back half of season 1, and Star Trek Lower Deck season 3, we've actually got, of the 51 episodes, I think like 31 of them have been, or no, something like 25.
25, yeah.
Yeah, 25, 26 have been... have been animated Star Trek split between Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Lower Decks. And that's incredible that we've had so much animated Star Trek this year and that it has been so good. And I know I sort of, have talked a lot about, when they announced these shows, but for both of the animated shows, I started off very much with this like, oh, it's great that they're doing this. Maybe it won't be for me because I'm not sure I can really see myself enjoying animated Star Trek, and like how sort of not true that has ultimately been once we have sort of seen them play out on the screen, both Lower Decks from the perspective of it being an adult animated comedy and sort of all the kind of questions about, well, would that really work in a Star Trek kind of style? The answer, definitively yes. And sort of the kids show, designed for a younger audience, pitched to a younger audience. Is that going to be something that adult fans will kind of resonate with as well? Again, unquestionably, the answer has been yes. And we're now getting to the end of just a really fabulous season of Star Trek Prodigy. The finale, by the time you listen to this episode, just aired for us recording. It's tomorrow. That, like, I am sort of shocked in a really positive way by how much story they managed to fit into the first season of Star Trek Prodigy, played out this really incredible arc that I think when you rewatch the 20 episodes from 1 through to 20 becomes really clear and really obvious and sets up a really exciting second season for the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Prodigy's been amazing. Lower Decks, like you said, it's 25 out of 51 episodes are animation. So my migration on this has been different. So right when they announced Lower Decks, I was like, okay, interesting. But I thought I got it. And then the first time I heard Mike McMahon speak, I was like, yeah, I think this is going to be good. I think this is really going to be good. And then Prodigy, right away, I was on board because I just thought Pixar, right? I've seen a ton of Pixar movies that I don't think are going to be appealing to me, but they all are, right? Because of the way they tell these stories. So I was really confident in both. But my thing was about animation was just like, wow, okay, great. These will be good. I'm going to watch them, enjoy them. I just don't want animation to be the thing. I want live action Trek to be the thing.
Yes.
I want 90% live action and 10% animation. So my migration has been on this has been that I don't think I care anymore because these shows are so good. I do still care. I still want live action, but they're so good that I'm so into them. It's incredible. It's incredible how impactful these series are on the overall Star Trek universe and the narrative. So, I mean, Lower Decks, the things they did with, I'm going to highlight is, so Crisis Point 2 for me.
Yep.
Just blew me away. I love Crisis Point. I like Crisis Point 2 better because this Kitty-Odd joke is like the funniest freaking thing. It's just like, that reveal doesn't make any sense. It is such a smart joke for all of us. It's like just rejoice in it, people. That is an absolute gift that they could take something like that and make it so smart. And then we might as well go to my number 2 pick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because let's talk about Prodigy a little bit. So my 5 words and a hashtag: Mustache and Jellyman, know your roles. Hashtag Kobe has a moment. And I was picking Kobayashi, the very first episode of the year, because this episode blew me away. First the seeing Kobayashi Maru portrayed in that way, but when everybody shows up, Uhura, Scotty, Odo, Spock, and Beverly Crusher. I mean, I was emotional. I was very emotional watching this episode, seeing all of them interact together. Aaron Walke did just an amazing job putting this script together and finding those sound clips and just, we say this a lot, especially this year, love letter to Star Trek. This was one of those love letters to Star Trek that I just absolutely loved. And that's the moment where I started to, I think early on, the people were kind of like, this Dal character, I don't really know, what's the hook here. Man, I love this character, Dal RL, and the actor Brett Gray. What a job he did, like in Mind Walk and these other things. I mean, the guy has to play Janeway.
Yeah,
That's
right.
not easy to do. He's a young actor and in his 20s, and it's voice acting, and to capture that what those two did in Mind Walk was amazing. And we got the return of Chakotay at the end of this episode, which is like, okay, so Prodigy really is like a sequel to Voyager. So that was the moment where you kind of start realizing that. So anyway, this animated Trek, Lower Decks, Prodigy. Love it.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I think that first real moment where the show was like, I mean, not surprise, but in some ways a bit like, surprise, it really is a Star Trek show, right? Like, you know, in just such a big way. And I remember when the screeners came through, and in our little Trek Core Slack, I think I watched it first, and I just put into the Slack, like, you guys really need to watch this episode now.
Right.
Like, you need to go. And we don't do that a lot. You know, we'll talk back and forth about stuff, but normally we're very good about just kind of saying nothing until everybody has watched it, and then we'll be like, okay, what did you think? For that one and Equality of Mercy were both times this year where we were just like, you guys need to watch, right? Like drop whatever you're doing, whatever it is that's stopping you from watching these episodes, stop doing that thing and go watch these right now, because they are so good. And we've not done that with a lot of stuff, you know, even in the previous year's stuff. So like, there was some real high points this year.
I mean, the crazy thing about Kobayashi too is now that's 50 episodes ago.
Yeah, right.
50 episodes since that thing came out. And we didn't even mention that, you know, it all takes place on the bridge.
Yes.
Of
the
1701.
Glorious.
I mean,
glorious
so
beige.
Beautiful. Just so beautiful. I love it.
It's beige and it's beautiful.
Yep. Really well done.
All right, then let me give you my number 2 pick, which is Strange New Worlds is a standout breakout hit for Star Trek. I mean, just like the way that Strange New Worlds seemed to break out of the sort of Star Trek popular culture bubble and really kind of burst into the sort of mainstream pop culture bubble in a way that honestly, like, a Star Trek show hasn't really since, like, maybe going all the way back to The Next Generation, where obviously the show is popular amongst fans, right? All of the shows have been popular amongst fans, but like Strange New Worlds reached a new level of, this was a show that was not just popular amongst fans, but you know, like on Twitter, I follow a bunch of Star Trek people, and I follow a bunch of entertainment people who have nothing to do with Star Trek, and I follow a bunch of political and news people because, you know, that's sort of my profession. And like, I'd never seen a Star Trek show sort of migrate spaces into some of those other worlds like Strange New Worlds did. And I think there's something really special and notable about that, which is A, the show is excellent. B, I think it just gets the formula just right? Mm-hmm. Each of the shows has sort of, since 2017, has sort of experimented with the formula, and like, how do you sort of reconstitute the formula in a way that's still Star Trek, but that is, it does something a little bit different. And I think Strange New Worlds just sort of hits on that from all of the learnings of those previous shows, hits on the kind of like, maybe this is how to do it in a way that's really going to kind of break through, and does so spectacularly successful. And there's really only one episode in the season that I don't care for. And it's not because it's a bad episode. It's just because it's a really hard episode to watch. Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. And like, from the Trek Ranks kind of, you know, scoring system, it's not a hugely rewatchable episode because it's a really hard watch, but it's a great episode. And so there's just like what an incredible season. Cannot wait for season 2, which now is, you know, really not all that far away for us. And yeah, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, have to acknowledge, complete standout breakout hit for the Star Trek franchise for 2022.
Yeah, it's the number one story of the year in terms of just its success. And I'll say you're right about how each new series has had to kind of try to create a little bit of an offshoot, change the formula a little bit, find their own thing while keeping it Star Trek. But the advantage that Strange New Worlds had is that it's the 5th, and they went back to basics a little bit. So it's kind of like that was the formula, right? It was like, oh, go back to basics, but make it still fresh. And they just absolute home run. And that's obviously at this point what people were clamoring for. I don't think if this had been the first show to come out of the gate, I think it would be received differently, because then it would be, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But I'll say the other thing you were talking about in terms of its popularity, they did. So I haven't talked about this. I wanted to kind of thread about it because there was a bunch of people who, people like to pile on Paramount, their promotion department stuff. And there was a lot of people bitching about
done a fair amount of that myself.
You certainly have, which is all fair. Most of it's accurate. I try not to get into that, but a couple, maybe 6 weeks out, people were like, what the hell? There's no promotion for this show. People were bitching about it.
I was one of them.
They had a plan. Because about 4 weeks out, they started releasing those little vignettes every day, and they were awesome. And they really did an amazing job of promoting this thing in the weeks leading up. And I remember thinking, because I follow other people too, and usually you don't get a lot of buzz about Trek from them. And I remember thinking, oh man, Obi-Wan is going to kick, and I'll say Obi-Wan's going to kick our ass, meaning Star Trek. It is just going to be, everyone's going to be talking about Obi-Wan. Nobody's going to be talking about Strange New Worlds. It was the exact opposite. And there's probably some people listening who are going to disagree with that. But in terms of the normal buzz scale, it was flipped. Because Strange New Worlds, everybody was talking about it. People who were outside of the Star Trek realm. And Obi-Wan was kind of like, yeah, okay, it's here. Yeah, that was a cool little bait and switch at the beginning. But it's kind of just a show. And I'm not that into it. So anyway, the fact that it withstood such a presence in not a rivalry. I know people are screaming right now. It's not a rivalry, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
It outlasted that, and that was amazing to me. So yeah, and you're right, Lift Us Up Where Suffering Cannot Reach is easily the number 10 episode, but it's also still a really good episode. Do a lot of amazing things in it. But what they did with The Quality of Mercy and Mori and Spock and Muck is just going to be remembered as an all-time great episode. Just really, this series, incredible.
Quality of Mercy and Spock and Muck, certainly my two favorite episodes of Strange New Worlds Season 1. And I think certainly for Quality of Mercy, arguably 2 for Spock and Muck, the best episodes of Star Trek since 2005.
Potentially, yeah.
Just really, really, really good, and sets up all kinds of interesting things. I mean, even in the way that, they did some things where I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, right? Like introducing Kirk. Bringing, just going there and bringing in Kirk and
even using Sam Kirk is almost like a joke.
Yeah, right.
A joke at the end of the first episode, what are they doing? But then it really worked.
It works. I mean, I remember that I think Jen Tift was my guest for the Captain Kirk reveal episode, and I remember being like, I don't know, and well, I hope they don't, have Pike meet Kirk, and fast forward a bunch of time, and I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I really enjoyed Paul Wesley's performance. I really enjoyed A Quality of Mercy. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these characters interacting. Just serve it up to me, and I'm happy to, and I will enjoy it because I think they've done a really terrific job with it.
I love it. That's bring out season 2.
Yes. All right, give me your last pick.
Okay, my number 1. I can't wait to hear yours. So my number 1, I don't think will be yours. And if you listen to our Picard season 2 summary show on Trek Ranks, I just copied my notes over to my notes for this one. So I love this episode, and it fired me up in a way that outside of Strange New Worlds, which I was very fired up for. This episode just did it for me. So my 5 words in a hashtag: a penance that pays off. Hashtag from President Hansen to Spot 73. And I love the second episode of Star Trek Picard so much. Penance, just genius on every level. And I did this in my Trek race. I'm going to do it again. So first of all, I love any kind of fish out of water story where you have to kind of figure your way out. And they do this so perfectly in this episode, with Picard knowing kind of the situation, Seven kind of waking up, and she's president, and she's got to figure out a way. She connects with Rios. They had this really brilliant conversation, and then Girardi wakes up alone in her lab, and she's alone everywhere. And then Rafi and Eleanor, and then they all hook up, and they're trying to figure this out, and they have to kill the Borg Queen because the Borg Queen's there. Holy crap. I just love this kind of, it's basically a mirror universe episode without the mirror universe. And it feels like Mirror to me in ways that not too many episodes do, because they have to figure out a way to get out of here. And I love the building tension of it. And then I love just that all the layers in this episode. Here's all the things that were mentioned in this episode. There were on-screen references to Tuvok, O'Brien, Navarre, Tasha Yar, and the Metrian Cascade. You've got Patton Oswalt as Spot 73, which I love that he made his Star Trek debut. And then you got references to Gul Dukat, General Martok, Sarek, the Grand Nagus, and General Sisko. So I love this episode. It just absolutely blew me away. And say whatever you want about the season of Picard season 2. I loved it because I'm the kind of person that if you said, hey, we're going to make Future's End 10 episodes long and tell this really detailed story, I'd be like, awesome, let's do that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what this episode is. It's just a 10 episode awesome deep dive into a time travel story that I love.
And some sizzling Picard Q dialogue.
Yes, and then I didn't even mention it. The whole beginning is Picard and Q, and Picard and Q punches Picard and the whole bit. Yeah.
Yeah, an incredible episode that followed an incredible episode. The Stargazer was a really great episode. I think, in some ways sort of teasing a little bit what we have to look forward to with the kind of show that I think Star Trek Picard season 3 will be. But then the heel turn into the Confederation timeline. And yeah, just it's funny. It's like the Stargazer and Penance are very similar episodes in addition to being very different episodes, right? The Stargazer is a very traditional kind of Star Trek-y, Starship-y kind of episode, right? Like, on screen and hail them in a conference room scene and, sort of all the setup that goes into that. And then you've got Penance, which is just a real heel turn episode, as you say, kind of mirror universe episode. It's got Q, but like the similarities across them are that both episodes are just completely kind of immersed and cloak themselves in the history and the universe and the kind of mise-en-scène of Star Trek. And even though in the second episode you're in a completely different timeline where the Federation doesn't exist and Starfleet doesn't exist, it's still Star Trek and it's still that same universe in a really kind of meaty, interesting, cool way that brings in cool ideas and tells you about characters you've heard before in an interesting way. And yeah, I mean, I'm also a huge fan of season 2 of Picard. I know lots of people don't like it, but I really liked it. And I just rewatched it as part of my big franchise rewatch last month, and my feelings about it haven't changed. I really like the season. I really like the arc. I really enjoy the arc related to Picard and his sort of childhood and, the bits to do with his mother and his father. And, I think the way that it deepens the scene in Where No One Has Gone Before is really incredible. And it certainly, I think that arc spoke to me in a really interesting way. And I guess this transitions me into my number one, since we're talking Picard, and
awesome.
Like we couldn't go through a list of 10 picks from 2022 and not have this one come up. So like the first Contact Day reveal that the cast of The Next Generation would be returning for Star Trek Picard Season 3, and that teaser that we got that had little snippets of dialogue from each of those actors was such a great moment in a great week of moments. That was at the start of the week. Mission Chicago was at the end of the week. What an incredibly well-kept secret that was.
Right.
They had filmed the whole season. All 10 episodes had been filmed. These actors had all gone and done their work, right? It was not like they had announced it and then they were going to film it so you knew it was coming. There were rumors, there was lots of talk about, returning legacy characters, and you kind of knew that like I think the sense was they're going to be TNG actors in Picard season 3. But I don't think anybody ever conceived of the idea that it would be all of them.
Right. Or that they would be so what I thought it was going to be, because there was a bunch of little teases from, I guess, like Terry Matalas and a few others tweeting things like, you can't believe what I just saw on the set today.
Right, exactly.
Right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I see that, I'm like, okay, so they brought everybody back for one final scene, one final episode. That's what I was thinking. Like, okay, they're probably all going to be there in some form to close this thing out, which is really cool. That's not, they filmed a whole season already and all 7 play pivotal roles, and now they're billing it as basically TNG season 8 as opposed to the finale of TNG as opposed to Picard season 3. It's fascinating.
That Riker's in all 10 episodes, that Beverly Crusher has a really pivotal role, and I think is also in all 10 episodes. Yep. That each of the cast members has really key roles to play. We've obviously learned about, other characters who are returning. Moriarty comes back. Lore comes back. That's who Brent Spiner's playing. With more to come, right? Like there's the Deep Space Nine question hanging out there where Terry Matalas has said this is a continuation of Deep Space Nine as well, right? Like what does that look like in Picard season 3? Like I think we have been told a lot about Picard season 3 in terms of we know the Next Generation cast are coming back. We know certain elements of the plot. We've obviously had a kind of substantive trailer. We know what the main ship is, the Titan A. It's really great kind of ship design that they've created for this season. But I still feel like they're holding things back, things that are very cool and that are going to excite us and delight us just as much as the announcement that those 7 main cast members are returning. But like, I just find myself coming back to that teaser trailer. I watch it occasionally because it's just like, it's just, I was at work. It's one of those things where it's like there's those moments that you remember where you were and exactly how you felt at that moment in time. I remember that for them announcing a new Star Trek TV show, Star Trek Discovery. I remember that for when they revealed at San Diego Comic-Con 2016 that Discovery was going to be set in the Prime timeline. I remember Patrick Stewart coming back to Star Trek, and I remember the TNG crew being announced as coming back because I was on a call at the same time and like things were happening over here. And here I am trying to remain super professional. And I like excused myself from the call as quickly as possible. And like, then just like the whole day was gone for me. I couldn't think or do or process anything else other than this information. And we're a month and a half away from the premiere of Picard season 3. Yeah, only 6 weeks. And I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's so fun. I have the benefit of forgetting things too, because you just mentioned that Brent Spiner's playing Lore, and I was like, what? Oh, that's right. God damn it. I just got excited again. Holy crap. I totally forgot that at the end. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the thing in 2023. There's just no doubt. A TNG closeout. I never dreamed that we would get something like this.
Right.
And I love that it's this and not another movie.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm so happy. Gonna be. Now I'm stealing myself for them being at odds. I just
sure
don't want to see that. I know it'll end.
Depends how.
It'll end good, but I know it'll all be great. I'm gonna end up loving it. But
yeah,
I just want to start with everybody hanging out, being buddies, playing poker.
You make some very good points, Captain. But it's still all speculation and theory.
All right, so that's looking behind. Now, looking ahead, what is one thing that you're looking forward to in 2023?
Okay, before we do that, I'm going to give you one secondary system.
Okay, yes, secondary system.
I have
honorable mention.
Yeah, because I don't like to go negative or dark.
Yep.
But I just want to do it. Looking back on 2022, I just want to say
it's going to be a big moment for Morehouse.
Fuck you, Peanut Hamper. Okay, I hated a mathematically perfect redemption. Hated it. Oh my God, it's my new bottom episode of Star Trek. I appreciate what they were going for, and I appreciate everybody out there who loves it or likes it or even doesn't mind it. I hated it. I really, really dislike that. Not as an episode of television, but as an episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
I hate it. Okay, so
fuck Peanut Hamper.
All right, I'm gonna rehash a little bit and I'm gonna break. There's nothing I could. I'm not talking about Strange New Worlds or Picard.
Yep.
But I am going to talk about what I already picked, the Lower Decks crossover.
Yes.
I can't wait for this. I cannot wait for this. Directed by Frakes. Is it written by Mike McMahon? In my head,
it is.
I don't think it.
No, he did. So it's written by Catherine Lynn, who wrote Wage Dude, who now is in the Strange New Worlds writers' room. Mike McMahon said that he did script revisions, so he definitely had a hand in
it's
it.
Gonna have I think this is gonna feel like a Lower Decks episode in all the best ways possible.
Yeah.
And to see Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome in these roles interacting with these great characters that we've just learned to, just got introduced to on Strange New Worlds. I cannot wait. I think this is going to be just bizarro Trek and take Trek in a new place that we've never done. They've never done anything like this. I'm blown away. I'm just fascinated to see how they pull this off, and I'm super confident it's going to be stand up with the best of 23.
I love how creative it is. I love how experimental it is. I love how much of a risk it is, right? Like, that's not playing it safe, right? Doing a crossover between a live action and an animated Star Trek that have very different sensibilities to them, that are quite different, in which you're introducing animated characters into live action for the first time who come from an explicit comedy, right? Who will now be in a drama that will have comedic elements to it. And like, how does that work and how does that match up? And like, how much is animated and how much is live action? Like, I want to know, I want to see that episode now. I am so excited for that too. I can't begin to describe it because it's just so, like, there's a lot of Star Trek. There have been 50 episodes this year. We've raced from episode 800 to now being within spitting distance of 900 episodes. And by the end of next year, we'll pass 900 episodes and be on our way to 1,000 episodes of Star Trek. I mean, just let that sink in for a moment, that it is very realistic to say that within the next 5 years, we will pass 1,000 episodes of Star Trek.
It's almost assured. It's
almost assured.
Probably in the next 3 years.
Yes, because it's only 10 more seasons, and we're currently pumping out 5 a year. So, or 4 a year, but 5 shows. So, like, for them to do something this different and interesting and experimental, hopefully is a positive sign for them doing more of that down the line in a way that continues to have 1,000 episode long franchise feel fresh and interesting and new. So yeah, I'm really excited for this, and I'm very confident in it, but I'm also just so hopeful that it's a successful experiment, that, you know, that works for you and for me and for everybody else, and that, you know, it sort of encourages them to take more risks and big swings like that, because they should be applauded for doing so.
I'm super confident, and I can't wait to just are they going to show a little bit of Lower Decks, like a full animation before they move over?
I believe so. Yes, I think they said there will be animated sections.
And will there be other people on the show, on the other cast members animated before those two leave? I don't know. It's just I can't wait.
Okay, let me tell you what I'm looking forward to for 2023. And I'm just sort of guessing that Star Trek Prodigy season 2 will start in 2023, but hey, they're in the middle of making it, so it's a high probability that the season will start next year. And that's that. Now that we've hit the end of season 1 of Prodigy, I'm really excited to see what season 2 is going to be, right? It will not be more of the same. The season finale of season 1 sets up a really different show for season 2, right? It seems that it will not be aboard the Protostar. We don't know which ship it will be aboard. I think it might be, we'll just throw out a little theory, it might be a fair bet that it could be a certain ship that begins with a V and ends with an Voyager that might have an A that comes after it, right? It's not going to be the Protostar. It's not going to be the Dauntless. It's maybe going to be a Voyager show in which our crew, right, you know, very sad, the sort of demise of hologram Janeway. That was really well done, extremely kind of well set up. But like, now our crew are A, in Starfleet, right? They're non-commissioned officers, and B, under the tutelage of actual Admiral Janeway. And it's really interesting because this is sort of like season 2 of Prodigy is sort of the show that I think people's minds immediately went to when Prodigy was announced, that they were then told, no, it's not that show, right? Like when Kate Mulgrew said, I'm coming back to Star Trek and I'm playing Janeway again, it was like, but not that Janeway. I'm playing a different Janeway. And yes, she did, right? The hologram Janeway that appeared throughout all 20 episodes of season 1. But hologram Janeway is, for now, I think, timey-wimey, go back to the future to rescue Chakotay and find an earlier version of the Protostar, and oh my god, there's hologram Janeway there at the same time. That she's now, this is Admiral Janeway, and it's Admiral Janeway with a new crew, potentially aboard a ship that has yet to be revealed. That might be the Voyager, because there's that cryptic line. I can't remember exactly what the line is. Or she's like, "Oh no, I've got bigger plans for us."
Yeah.
It's going to be a really different show while still having all of the same heart and the same characters, but it won't be as scrappy and it won't be as kind of roguish. It will be a Starfleet show for kids with characters that they've come to know and love and understand, and with under the command of Admiral Janeway, a legacy character that we already know and love and understand. And I'm so excited to see how those elements combine together for the next 20 episodes of what Prodigy can and will be.
That is a brilliant pick because it really is intriguing to see. They are resetting this show. It's not going to be on the Protostar. I mean, Protostar doesn't exist. There's going to be the Protostar class, I think, as they said. So, yeah, this is an awesome pick. So everything you said, plus the additional setup that they've done with this awesome mystery with Chakotay still out there. You've got a villain out there with now Essentia and Dread.
The Vindicator.
Yeah, the Vindicator, right? Who left with Dreadlock. And
Jamila Jamil is so good.
Oh, she's been awesome in it. Really, really clever. And then the potential for this time travel element with this wormhole and the whole thing. They really have set themselves up well and in a believable way for this crew to be, for these kids, who found a starship. They didn't steal it. They found it. Come on, people. And be working on a ship going out and being a Star Trek show. That's amazing. That's a brilliant pick. I love it. Can't wait. And I think it's going to come in 23. I think they've been working on it far enough in advance.
Yeah.
They hope they'll be on the same rotation here as Lower Decks.
Yeah, it'll probably be towards the end of the year, maybe even a bit further to the end of the year than this year, but it'll be next year, I think, for sure. And to kind of pull it full circle, right, we both had the opportunity to offer, right, well, we explicitly said we weren't going to do Picard Season 3, we weren't going to do Strange New Worlds Season 2, but where did our minds go to in terms of things we're looking forward to in 2023? Both of them had an animated Star Trek tie-in. So,
oh, yeah, good point. Yep.
Animation rules supreme for Star Trek.
Yep. Brilliant.
And on a more personal note, I just want to acknowledge I am approaching my 4-year anniversary of hosting this show, which continues to be an absolute blast, and I'm looking forward to continuing to host this show and bringing you all the Star Trek news that's fit to talk about for as long as they are making it.
Awesome. Congrats, man.
Thank you. Do you have a theory for Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, or Prodigy that you'd like to share? Tweet them to me at WeeklyTrek or email them to me at weeklytrek@thetricordertransmissions.com, and I might feature your theory in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Jim Morehouse, for joining me today. Jim, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
Still on Twitter at Enterprise Extra and at Trek Ranks, our podcast about all the things we love about Star Trek.
And you can find this show on Twitter at Weekly Trek and me at Alexander T. Perry. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And please check out some of the other great shows on the Tricorder Transmissions. And if you like our shows, please also consider becoming a Patreon of Tricorder, which you can find at patreon.com/the Tricorder Transmissions. And lastly, if you're looking for Star Trek news on the internet, I hope you will turn to trekcore.com. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper.